Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Data here, and as the second round of the 2023 NHL postseason comes to an end, we will now look forward to the Eastern and Western Conference final matchups. It was quite an incredible second round, lots of upsets, lots of fun times, good storylines for the history books. Not at my best at the moment, a bit congested, as you could probably hear right now, so I'll try to make it through. Thank you for bearing with me here as we're going to be going live this evening, and we will hopefully take a little bit less time than the last live stream since there's less series to go through. But with no hockey on the schedule tonight, with a couple of days rest until the conference finals begin, I thought now would be a good time to say, hey, let's go live. Let's talk a little bit of hockey. We got some great viewers in here tonight. We have Dabrowskiego. The evening's going well. Like I said, a little congested, but the evening's going well, buddy. Hope yours is going well as well. Just chilling, Slim, buddy. Here he is. Hello from Uruguay. Welcome. Gerachocho. Thank you for being here. Actually, the time zones are probably quite similar, right? Owen, I'm so depressed that the Oilers lost in 6 in the second round. Yeah, we'll be discussing all of that. Vinny, welcome to the stream, buddy. We'll have a lot to talk about. What were the reasons why each team lost? Now, just to throw it out there, the bracket, obviously, it's busted. The predictions change after each round. But just to throw it out there, in round number 1, I got every series right aside from the 2 upsets that, of course, destroyed my bracket with the Bruins and the Avalanche losing. I went 6 out of 8 in round number 1. In round number 2, I went 3 out of 4. So you know what? Consistently around 75%, I'll take that. I had the Panthers, I had the Stars, I had the Golden Knights, but I had the Devils over the Hurricanes. I wanted to go with my original prediction, but I should have changed my prediction from there. Leafs lost because the core 4 didn't show up. I see that. I see what you're saying. Owen, how are you? Yeah, I'm for the offseason. I'm absolutely excited. Who do I hope Montreal picks? Well, it really, of course, it depends on who's there. If the top 3 goes, well, if the top 2 obviously goes Bedard, Fantilli. If number 3 is Will Smith or what's his name? I'm blanking on all the names now. If Michkov and Smith and who am I? What's his name? The guy Dvorsky, is that who I'm thinking of? My brain is totally in playoff mode right now. I wasn't thinking about the draft at all. But if basically whoever's left of Smith, Michkov, and the third guy who I've totally lost all sight of. What is that guy's name again? Is it Dvorsky who I'm thinking of? I think it's Dvorsky. I'm just going to say that. All right. So that being said, welcome to the stream, everybody. Let's go ahead and get this party started. I'll go ahead and, like a classic meeting here, I'll go ahead and share. Leo Carlson. That's who I'm saying. What is my problem? Of course, Leo Carlson. Whoever's left of Carlson, Smith, and Michkov. That's who I hope Montreal takes. What is my problem? Thank you for that, Owen. So as a classic business meeting, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Can everybody see my screen? We'll go ahead and do that. So here is my original bracket, of course, busted a long time ago. If you are curious on who is currently leading the bracket challenge, it is Hobbsy, who had his Stanley Cup winning pick as the Dallas Stars. So we'll go ahead. Oh, you can see my screen. Beautiful. Everyone can see my screen. Good. You can hear me okay. Classic meeting. So in round number 2, my predictions, aside from the bracket, my predictions were Stars in 6, ended up being Stars in 7. Vegas, I believe I said in 7, ended up being Vegas in 6. I said Panthers in 7, ended up being Panthers in 5. And I said Devils in 7, I think I did. Ended up being Hurricanes in, was it 5 as well? I believe that's what it was. So now we have an Eastern Conference final of Florida versus Carolina and a Western Conference final of Dallas versus Vegas. Brutal bracket, absolutely. But take away the stuff that I got wrong initially. I've been, like I said, 75% ever since. 6 out of 8 in round number 1, 3 out of 4 in round number 2, Mr. 75%. Just call me that. So that means at least 1 out of these 2 I should get right. And hopefully I should also, maybe I can get the Stanley Cup final right. But let's start by breaking down the series that were last episode. I went ahead and started in the East. So we'll go ahead this time and start in the West. In the Western Conference, we start with the series that ended most recently. The only series to go to 7, surprisingly, probably the one that people thought wouldn't go to 7, Dallas and Seattle. Now, this was an incredible series. Seattle Seattle, such a feel-good team, being such an underdog story. It was something that not only do you hope, like obviously when you're watching it, you're thinking hopefully Seattle can do something, but if they don't, well, at least they went out and tried, and they shouldn't even be here in the first place. No, they pushed Dallas to 7 after taking the reigning Stanley Cup champions out in 7. They played the most games so far, 14 games played. They really showed everything that they could do. So starting off with the team stats here, looking at Seattle. I'm not going to look at the team stats too much. I'm probably going to look more at the player and goaltending stats, but they had 33 goals for, 20 goals for, 33 for, 32 against, but they were only expected to have 27.5 for and 33.91 against, so an expected goal differential of 6.41 goals above expected allowed, the worst of the entire postseason. That's cumulative at 5-on-5 in the postseason. So of all the second round teams, second would be Florida. But just to say, the Kraken, they scored more than they should have, probably a little bit more, but they also allowed more than they would have liked. Because Philip Grubauer, as great of a story as he was, as much as he was putting together a miracle in Game 7 to keep Seattle in it, unfortunately, just looking at the numbers, if we look at, it only shows me the entire playoffs. Philip Grubauer, yes, he saved 2.7 goals above expected, but it wasn't enough compared to what other goaltenders are doing. Those 2.7 goals above expected saved was not as good as other goaltenders who are still out here. Freddie Anderson, Bobrovsky, even Aiden Hill, who has played in 5 games. So, yeah, Bobby going to be carrying the Cats. We'll talk about that when we get to the Eastern Conference. So Grubauer was good. He was even better than he should have been, but he wasn't good enough. I guess that's what I want to say. He was getting bombarded a lot of the time, as Dallas is such a deep team. They are such a good team in so many different ways. And Grubauer gave his team a fighting chance. They just, although they scored well, didn't quite score enough. If you look at goals for, Seattle, #1 team, but also 14 games played. Vegas, 3 less goals, 3 less games played. Dallas, 4 less goals, 1 less game played. So I'm not trying to say like, oh, Seattle wasn't good enough. They were good enough. Dallas was just better, I found in that series. So if we just go to look at the Seattle Kraken in this postseason, looking at the scoring, of course, they had 7 points from the rookie Matty Beniers, who led all rookies in postseason scoring. Yanni Gourde continued what he was doing, close to point per game. Jordan Eberle with 6 goals was an incredible help. Jaden Schwartz, 5 goals, 5 assists, 10 points. Schultz, 10 points, one of the higher scoring defensemen in the series. Bjorkstrand, Tolvanen, the waiver pickup. Matty Beniers in his 7 points. Great stuff. See you later, Owen. Thanks for stopping by. The Seattle Kraken did as much as they could have done. And looking at Philip Grubauer, his numbers weren't crazy. Like I said, .903 save percentage, 3 goals against average about, but he did better than he was even expected to do. Seattle just needed a bit more of that, of the star power. That's what I'm looking for. Yes, Yanni Gourde close to point per game, but not enough of a collective goal scoring committee, I don't think. So, if it's going to be only your top guys scoring, as I've said this before in my breakdowns, if it's only going to be your top guys, that can be very scary, because as soon as those top guys are not putting the puck in the back of the net, the rest of the team has to pick up the slack, and they are not there. Yes, great two-way game from Matty Beniers, absolutely. So the Kraken did an incredible job. They put up more of a fight than anyone really thought they would do. They ruined, I don't know if ruined's a big word, but they really dug into Jake Ottinger's numbers. His goals saved above expected, I believe, was at 4 after the first round, around 4. Now -3.3. So yes, Seattle was scoring probably a bit more than they should have been, but they needed to be doing even more with the star power that Dallas has, something that Seattle doesn't quite have themselves. A lot of big words just to kind of say Dallas was the better team, but it was an incredible series that went back and forth the whole time, and Seattle, they were given a lot of opportunities to win it. Unfortunately, in Game 7, Grubauer did everything he could. and they just couldn't break through Ottinger in that 7th game as much as they had broken through him previously. So after, you could scroll down a million different numbers here. Goals for above expected, goals against above expected, shooting percentage on all attempts. You could look at a million different things and try to dissect it as much as you could. But I think, for the purposes of this video, I think I'm going to keep it to a bit more that base level. They had a lot of shots on net. Again, like I said, with the most games played, that's expected. But they did so much. They were putting the puck on net. They were scoring. They were delivering. They had the goaltending. Just at the end of the day, Dallas seemed to have played a better game. Jeremy, welcome to the stream, buddy. So I'll cut that there before I keep going in too many circles. That was the Vegas Golden Knights Vegas Golden Knights. We're going on to Vegas. So that was the Dallas Stars defeating the Seattle Kraken in 7 games after it was pretty back and forth. It was Ottinger allowing more than he probably should have. It was Seattle needing to score even a little bit more on top of that, as Grubauer did very well, but had to do even better. And in the end of the day, it is Dallas moving on, the team that I think is a bit deeper. I think the team that has a better star power. And despite Ottinger getting roughed up a little bit, the team with the better goaltending. So now we move into the other Western Conference matchup, Vegas versus Edmonton. This is a matchup that I did anticipate seeing, but I initially thought that Edmonton would take it. After round number 1, seeing what LA did to Edmonton and seeing how easily Vegas went through Winnipeg, I decided to switch it up and say Vegas in 7. It ended up being Vegas in 6 even. Now, here's the thing about this series. I'm going to jump to the goaltenders before I even look at the team or the scoring or anything. This is what you have to look with me. And Logan, welcome to the stream, buddy. This is what you have to look at with me. When it comes to goals saved above expected, the worst in the entire postseason, not just for the guy who played 1 game. We're looking at even guys, Vanacek 7 games played, Ottinger 13 games, Vasilevsky 6, goaltenders who at least started a number of games. Stuart Skinner was at the bottom, allowing over 6 goals above expected. Yes, he had a .935 save percentage on unblocked shots. That's very nice. That's still 7th from the bottom when looking at 28 goaltenders. How about save percentage save percentage on shots on goal? Looking at the bottom here, Stuart Skinner, 8th at the bottom as well, 883 for shots on goal. Goals against average, 3.68. Of all starters, I'd say 2nd or 3rd after Vanacek and Korpisalo. Now, yes, Slim, as you're saying, he is a rookie for sure. I'm not putting on Stuart Skinner. I'm putting it a bit more on the coaching. If you see that Stuart Skinner is struggling for whatever reason, nerves, youth, experience, I don't put it on Stuart Skinner. If this is taking place and you pull him a couple times, you go with Jack Campbell, and when Jack Campbell is in nets, he does incredibly. Why are you not continuing to play Jack Campbell? Now, I know for whatever reason, Jack Campbell, he's fallen out of grace. Well, for whatever reason, he didn't have a great regular season. Skinner stole the crease. But if Skinner is struggling and Campbell, in his 4 games played, saves 3.5 goals above expected, has a .978 save percentage on unblocked shots, the most of any goalie who played more than 1 game, and the goals against average as well, best goals against average of any goalie that played about more than 1 game as well, 1.01 goals against average. If you have this goaltender on your team, and you also have your, quote, I guess you could call him starter, Stuart Skinner, who is struggling, why would you not turn to Jack Campbell? I'm not saying just he should have been thrown into Game 7. Even before that, why throughout this postseason was Jack Campbell not given more opportunities? So Slim says that he blames Woodcroft and the leadership from Edmonton. I could see that. So I'm not trying to blame Stuart Skinner. I'm trying to say, yes, Stuart Skinner is struggling, but then Edmonton should not continue to do the same thing. That's the definition of insanity, right? Same thing over and over, expecting different results. Why would the Edmonton Oilers not go to Jack Campbell, who had great numbers most recently? Yes, the regular season, over the long run, he didn't do as great, But why not go to him? So looking at the team itself, Edmonton Oilers, if we go from, let's look at goals for. The Oilers scored 24 goals through 12 games in the postseason, averaging a couple goals per night. Not as much as you would think for such a high-scoring team, right? Only scoring 24 goals in 12 games. Well, if we go and look at the stats here, obviously, well, the 3 of the top 4 scorers in the whole league were from the Oilers, correct? With Draisaitl, McDavid, and Bouchard. Yes, 3 of the top 4 are all from the Oilers. So very interesting that with all that offense, with all that goal scoring, you have Evander Kane who scored, 1 assist in that series against Vegas? Was that what he had done? Yeah, 1 assist. He had 4 points. Now he's ended with 5, so there you go. You have McDavid with 20. Draisaitl more than a goal per game. In total, is that stat correct? 13 plus 8 gets me to 21. Now, it can't be 24 goals. Now, let me take that back then. I was speaking, even as I said something doesn't sound right here. 24 goals scored? Am I looking at something? Oh, sorry, this is just 5 on 5. That's why. 5 on, my apologies. My apologies. All situations. Goals for, 44 in 12 games. Yeah, as I was saying, I said that doesn't sound right. Let me go count the goals. Yeah. So 44 goals for. So I was only looking at 5 on 5 instead of all situations. I don't think that really changes much of what I was looking at in the greater scheme of things. If anything, I think that gives more realistic numbers, taking out the power play. But just to say, they were a very high-scoring team, because I said it can't be 24 in 12 games. They were a very high-scoring team, but very top-heavy. Draisaitl, McDavid, Bouchard even, great coming out for him. After that, Nuge, he picked it up. He did well. Hyman, he picked it up. He did well. Ekholm did more than he probably really had to. After that, Evander Kane, 1 assist in 6 games versus Vegas. Yamamoto, 1 goal, 4 points, -7 in 12 games. Then everybody else. Do you expect a ton of offense from Derek Ryan and Warren Fogle and Nick Bjugstad? No, you don't expect a ton of offense. But it can't be only 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points on a team that is this offensively minded, right? Walter, buddy, good to hear from you. I'm a little congested, but I'm doing well. Excuse me, a little sniff there. You have to excuse the sniffs. So the Oilers, very good offense. Their stars continue to be their stars. The depth did not show up. The secondary scoring did not show up. And the goaltending was not great either. If we go and look at these numbers now, of all the starters, if we even look at the entire postseason of any goalie that played, let's say, at least a few games, Stuart Skinner, if we just go Vanacek, then Vasilevsky, then Skinner, third worst save percentage at .883 save percentage, but he continues to get the starts. He had 12 starts. He started all of these games. He continued to start. So I think that was a mistake, a big mistake from the Oilers coaching staff. I think that Jack Campbell should have been given more, not just because Stewart was struggling, but because Campbell looked so good when given the chance to play. That's what I got to say on that. So team stats, the Oilers. Enough about the Oilers losing. How about the Vegas Golden Knights winning? Vegas, they were a great team that I don't think you could say that they have really any of that McDavid Draisaitl power. Yes, Jack Eichel is leading them in offense, but really it's a committee type of team. 14 from Eichel, 12 from Stone, Stevenson 10, Marchessault 10, sorry. 9 from Barbashev, 8 from Smith and Carlson. We get to what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 players who scored 8 points or more in 11 games. That's not what we were seeing from the Oilers, right? So you continue to go down that list. At least you... what am I trying to say here? That's the problem with doing it live. I got to try and gather my thoughts at the same time. Did they have crazy depth scoring? No, but I think it was their secondary scoring. The Oilers had star power and nothing else in terms of goal scoring, it seemed like, while Vegas has their star power, their secondary scoring, and that's about it. I wouldn't say the depth scoring is there, so that's something that I would be a bit concerned about. If, Kessel's out now, he had no goals in 4 games, but I didn't see any goals from, or any points even from these guys at the bottom. Yeah, only 2 games played for Teddy Bluger. Okay, remove that, I suppose. Keegan Kolesar, 1 goal. I know that's not always expected to do, but let me see. Nicolas Roy, 1 goal in 11 games. No. No, no one who really did anything too crazy struggling, eh? Amadio, 5 points, 9 games. I'm trying to find faults with Vegas, but they did so well. And even their depth scoring, even though it's not crazy, what would you expect from a guy who plays 12 minutes a night? Amadio, 5 points in 9 games. That's okay. So I think they just ran those two lines so well. The Eichel, Stone, Stevenson, Marchessault, Barbashev, Carlson, Smith, top 6, top 7 guys. I think they ran them so well, 16, 17, 20 minutes per night, that they barely relied on their bottom guys. And when they did enough. 5 points in 9 games with 12 minutes of ice time. Yeah. So again, I'm trying to cobble my thoughts together as I go type of thing. So I appreciate you kind of bearing with me going through the mental gymnastics. Now, the goaltending in Vegas, that's what many people were concerned about. Laurent Brossoit ended up now with a record of 5-2. And through those games, 894 save percentage, 3.18 goals against average, not incredible. Adin Hill in his games, he's 3-1, 934 save percentage, 2.19 goals against average. So it seems as though the Vegas Golden Knights will be running with Adin Hill. In Game 7, he started, allowed 2 goals on the first 2 shots, I believe that was, on the first 2 or 3 shots. Then he saved the next 30 shots that came his way. So if we look at goals saved above expected in the playoffs in all situations, Adin Hill, despite only playing in 5 games, is already 6th in that category at 3.2 goals saved above expected. Meanwhile, Laurent Brossoit is even, 16 out of 28 goalies. Not horrible, but it seems as though Adin Hill is the guy moving forward, at least after what he did in Game 7. So Adin Hill, flashiest name? No. Vegas does not have the flashiest names in terms of their goaltending, with Thompson out, Leonard out, but they have a great top 6, a very strong defensive core, led by who's eating up all these minutes out here. We have no forwards playing over 20 minutes per night, and 2 defensemen playing over 20 minutes per night, including Pietrangelo playing 24-15 per night. Great defensive core of Pietrangelo, Theodore, Martinez, McNabb, Whitecloud, Haig. Those are their top 6 guys who are all playing 18 minutes per night or more. And they have solid goaltending. It's been performing. A great top 6. I say all this to say when it comes down to Vegas versus Dallas, I'm now going to jump back to Dallas, who I didn't touch on too much in that first series. If we jump back to Dallas's forwards, actually, who I didn't touch on, I spoke about the team and the goaltending. If we jump over to Dallas now, as they will be facing them, I'm not going to give my predictions just yet, but just to recap on their scoring: Roope Hintz, 19 points, Robertson, 12 points, Domi, 11, Ben, 10, Pavelski, 10, Heiskanen, 9, Sagan, 9, Dadonov, 9. This is very similar, if not a little bit stronger at the top type of scoring. So in that series, which we won't get to yet, it may come down to the defense. So I won't go there just yet. We're going to jump now over to the Eastern Conference. Yeah, I'm loving how Eichel's playing. There we go. Dallas and Seattle, they take down Seattle. I didn't look too much into Dallas because I'm going to touch upon them some more in the looking forward, the predictions of the Western Conference final. Just to say that Ottinger, I already spoke about him. Ottinger wasn't as good as he had been, but he was good enough. And over in the other series, Vegas took down Edmonton, as I thought they would, for all the reasons I mentioned in my last live stream. And now in the finals, it will be Dallas versus Vegas, and we'll get there soon enough. Now over to the Eastern Conference. Florida versus Toronto in round number 2. My heart said Florida. My mind said Toronto. I went with my heart, just like I went with New Jersey over the Rangers, the Devils over the Rangers, and my heart proved to be right once again, as the Panthers took down the Leafs. And what kind of word could I use here? In authoritative fashion, winning the first 3 games before losing Game 4 and then winning Game 5. Florida has been a team on a mission this postseason. Of course, led by Matthew Tkachuk, Hart Trophy finalist. Breaking this down now, let's go through this a bit more quickly. Tkachuk, 16 points through 12 games, despite how many penalty minutes does this guy have? 20 right here. Despite the 20 penalty minutes, 42 for Sam Bennett, 25 for Montour. These guys are hard-nosed players. Hard-nosed players. Yeah, the bracket did not look too great, Walter, but at least my predictions have been better than my actual bracket from the start. I went 6 for 8 in round 1 and 3 for 4 in round 2. I'm scrapping the bracket, just thinking about predictions from here on out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players through between 4 and 12 games who have double-digit penalty minutes. That's crazy for a team to be able to continue to win when they're shorthanded or taking so many penalties so often. Crazy. Very strong penalty kill, good defensive core. You have the rejuvenation of guys like Eric Stahl, who has been like a penalty kill mastermind. Meanwhile, scoring-wise, you have Tkachuk at 16 points, Verhaeghe at 12 and 12, Montour 6 goals, 9 points, leading the team tied for the team lead in goal scoring. Sam Bennett 8 points and 42 penalty minutes. Reinhardt 6 goals, 8 points. The young sophomore Anton Lundell 7 points. So the team is coming together and finding a way to do it. But of the 4 teams remaining, this is the team that relies most heavily upon their goaltender, Sergei Bobrovsky. Now, Bobrovsky is number 1 by quite a bit in terms of second-round goaltenders, and even in terms of all the goaltenders by a little bit, of goals saved above expected. 9.3 goals saved above expected through his 10 games played. Incredible stuff. So if we look at all the save percentages as well of the remaining goaltenders, Ottinger, Bobrovsky, Brossoit/Hill, and Freddie Anderson, Freddie Anderson, well, here's the thing. Of goalies who are still remaining, who have played all their games, it's just Ottinger and Bobrovsky. And Bobrovsky has the better numbers by quite a little bit for the save percentage. If we look at all the goalies remaining, he's still second to Freddie Anderson. But I still believe that when you look at, even though his save percentage isn't as good as Freddie Anderson has 4 goals saved above expected through 6 games, and Bobrovsky has 9 goals saved above expected through 10 games. Is Freddie Anderson poised to make that number get even larger? Could very well be. It may very well be the case. This will be a goaltending battle between the Panthers and the Hurricanes. I'll get to that soon. But in the series against the Leafs, the core 4 just disappeared. The Toronto Maple Leafs did not show up enough. So the Panthers, they scored a lot of goals. They were expected to get 42. They got 40. They were expected to allow 47. They allowed 37. So they're, like I said, we're about 10 goals saved above expected through the entire postseason. Meanwhile, Toronto, expected to score 39, almost 40, have scored 33, and expected to allow 35.58. They've allowed 35, or 36, they've allowed 35. So all that to say, they scored less than they were expected to and allowed a little more than they were expected to, as well as their core guys just not showing up, and the Panthers getting hot, believing in themselves, underdog story, hot goaltender, let's go out there and do it. And they went out there and did it. Walter says, if Bob keeps playing like this, it's going to be 2012 Kings all over again. Florida looks near unbeatable, and that's crazy for a wild card team, the second wild card team, no less. So in that second round, I don't have the exact numbers of the second round. I don't believe so, eh? It just shows me the entire playoffs. Yeah. But we know that Matthews and Marner did not do very much. Nylander, of the core 4 of Marner, Matthews, Nylander, and Riley, Nylander was the one who showed up the most, but Matthews did not do much. Marner did not do much. Morgan Riley, he did a lot in the first round, not much in the second round. Ryan O'Reilly ends as a -3, which is sad for him. Tavares had 8 points in 11 games. Matthew Knees getting injured. That was unfortunate. And then it really drops off after that for guys who are taking a lot of ice time. In Vegas, the scoring drops off, but those are guys who are playing 12 minutes per night. You can't tell me Calle Yarncroke 14.5 minutes per night, 1 goal in 11 games. Alex Kerfoot playing 14-11 per night, 2 goals in 11 games. Who else is out here? Then, of course, you have the defenseman. Justin Hall ends at a -7. Yeah. So if we go, I wasn't looking at the players too much, but if we go to look at the players just on Toronto, this is the one team that I really want to break it down. I really want to break it down for the players. If we go look at Toronto, all situations, all positions, 2022-23 playoffs, minimum ice time of 5 minutes. Let's see what we got here. Sorry, no, I said Toronto Maple Leafs. Come on now. I want to see things like takeaways, giveaways. I want to look at all that. Woo, what's going on over here? Money Puck, what you doing? What are you doing to me here? Come on now. Not letting me scroll. All teams. Scroll down. Toronto Maple Leafs. Okay, there we go. Table loading. Thank you very much. Okay, So for all that they had expected goals, Tavares 6.5, he gets 4. Matthews 6.1, he gets 5. This is expected goals off what they did, though. Really, like in your mind, what did you expect them to do? Of course, it's way higher. So already they're scoring a little less than they should have been, and already this number wouldn't have been enough in the first place, right? So let me go look at some of these deeper numbers here. I want to look at penalty minutes drawn. I want to see that as well. With the Justin Hall drew 11 penalty minutes with the penalties that Florida was taking. Takeaways, 19 takeaways to 6 giveaways for Ryan O'Reilly. I can do that. Giveaways now. Morgan Riley 19, Luke Shen 14, Marner 14, McCabe 13 giveaways, 4 takeaways, and he's a -7. Is that not incredible? Where's Justin Hall out here? Is he not that crazy? Yeah, only 3 giveaways to 5 takeaways by -7 as well. Defensive zone giveaways. Riley, 14 defensive zone giveaways. He fell apart in the second round. McCabe, 12. Shen, 11. Giordano, 8. The top 4 are like top 4 defensemen on the team. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. What else can we see here? Anything else that interests us that would look at defensive metrics here? High danger shot attempts. No, I don't think that really goes into what we're looking at here. On ice, blah, blah. Rebounds created. Goals from rebounds. No, shooting above talent, blah, blah, blah. No. Just wanted to look at the players there and give a little chuckle on what they were doing. That was just shocking to me. Shocking from the Maple Leafs. So all that to say, with everything I said initially about the Florida Panthers, the Maple Leafs were not good enough whatsoever. And when it comes to the goaltending, if we look at goals against, obviously goals with expected goals against, excuse me. Ilya Samsonov, who was injured, was not easy to go to Joseph Wall, but Ilya Samsonov had only 1.3 goals allowed above expected, not a number that you can't live with, not a terrible number. Joseph Wall, meanwhile, was at 0.8 goals saved above expected. So the goaltending was never abysmal. The goaltending was never like the difference maker, I would say. The biggest difference maker. Let me clarify that. I would never say that it was the biggest difference maker in this series for the Maple Leafs. For the Panthers, sure. For the Maple Leafs, I wouldn't say that Hall saving 0.8 goals above expected and Samsonov allowing a goal above expected was anything to write home about. Matthews, Marner, Tavares, Riley, and all those giveaways, huge problems, red flags right there. So the Panthers took advantage of that. They were pests. They took those penalties. They scored those goals. They were unrelenting. And that's how they are now through to the Eastern Conference Final to face the Carolina Hurricanes, who took down the New Jersey Devils. In my original bracket, I had the Devils taking it. On my second go around, I said, you know what? I'm going to stick with the Devils. I didn't mean to disrespect the Hurricanes. I know a lot of people disrespected the Hurricanes. They had the Islanders winning it. Many people had the Islanders taking down the Hurricanes in round number 1 because of Sorokin. I didn't think the offense was deep enough, and that's exactly what happened. The Hurricanes made it through to round number 2, where I thought Akira Schmid would be, or however Schmid would be continuing his crazy pace. Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt, all these guys would continue all they did. And Carolina, while they have the defense and the goaltending, wouldn't quite have the offense. Ended up being that the Hurricanes took down the Devils for different reasons. And the Hurricanes were the one team that I did not have going through of my 4 predictions to the second round. So if we go back to, let's start with the player stats. Let's start it this way this time. Let's go and look at the Carolina Hurricanes, who in that series against New Jersey, I wouldn't say that anyone going crazy aside from Jordan Martinook, who now has 10 points tied for the team lead through 11 games. But just looking at this entire lineup here, it's interesting that the top 11 scorers all are averaging at least half a point per game, 6 through 11 or more. Really interesting And again, look at the ice time as well. All these guys are playing 15 minutes per night or more. At least 15 minutes per night, right? How you said it the second time is the right way. What did I miss there, Dabrowski-Diego? Sorry. So the ice time, these guys are on the ice for respectable amounts of time, and they are putting up respectable numbers offensively, something that we didn't see back in those Western Conference series I was just mentioning previously. So while the Hurricanes don't have anyone going crazy, aside from Marnik, like I said, but in the grand scheme of things, no one's going point per game, no one's going 2 points per game, no one's doing anything really crazy. Meanwhile, the defense has been shut down, locked down D. Again, I'm going to go back to the players. I don't want to look too much at this, because that's not what my main focus really is. But if I go back to the players, I just want to look at the defensive numbers from the Hurricanes. Of course, now it's going to take a half hour to pull back up. Slavin has been ridiculous. He's a plus 14 in such a small sample size. I don't usually give too much credence to plus minus, but to be a plus 14 through what, like 11 games, that's really saying something. So if I go ahead and look at giveaways, I bet no one even has like double digits of the defense, right? Brady Shea actually has 16 giveaways, 10 from Brent Burns. But after that, it drops off quite a bit, 8, 7, 6. Defensive zone giveaways, Brady Shea at 10, who's not even playing the most ice time, versus a guy like Morgan Rielly who had 14. Like that's, anyways, I digress. Not as many defensive zone giveaways, tighter defensively, which is definitely what you want to see. Oh, Schmid, gotcha. Smeed. Thank you. Smeed. Excuse me. So just looking at those quick defensive numbers, that's exactly what you want to be seeing, especially from you guys who are eating up so much ice time. Actually, Brady Shea played a bit more than I thought he did. So Brady Shea is the one guy who I would say, pick it up, buddy. Come on now. So expected goals versus goals. Despite the ability to get it done with the limited offense, I still would be wanting to see a little bit more from certain guys like Seth Jarvis, who should have at least, you would think maybe 5. He's at 4. Fast is doing above. Aho is doing above. So, it kind of balances out. They're not doing the most offensively. They're not expected to do the most offensively, but they're continuing to win because of their tight defense. And as we were looking at just a second ago, their goaltending. Actually, I already had that right here. Freddie Anderson, who is among the best goalies in the league right now in terms of goals saved above expected, 3.9, 4, we could round it up through 6 games played, 966 save percentage on unblocked shots, which is 4th among all goaltenders, 3rd among goalies who have played more than 1 game. I think Freddie Anderson could definitely be the X factor heading into this next series, because even though Bobrovsky is, as we just saw earlier, at 9.3 goals saved above expected, that Freddie Anderson combined with his defense makes me a little bit more confidence than Bobrovsky and his defense. Kind of get what I'm saying there? I think if it comes down to Bobrovsky versus Freddie Anderson, Bobrovsky has been better and will continue to be a bit better. But when you combine it with the defense, Anderson in front of his defense versus Bobrovsky in front of his defense, I give the defensive edge and the goaltending edge to the Hurricanes overall. Just one goalie versus one goalie, I give Bobrovsky the edge. But putting all of those factors together and saying who gets the edge overall, the defense/goaltending edge goes to the Hurricanes, while the offense, however, definitely goes to the Panthers. So again, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here. That's the Hurricanes right there. The Devils, they were strong offensively, but in the first round, but in the second round, they kind of hit a wall. Jack Hughes, 11 points was good. Their top guys were getting caught out there at very difficult times. The entire team were negative players aside from Michael McLeod at a +2, Miles Wood at a 0. Almost everybody a negative player, and not just small numbers. -4, -5, -6, -11 from Dougie Hamilton. That was a big hit. Only 1 goal and 4 points and a -11 for Dougie Hamilton through 12 games. Ooh, tough. Now, the scoring was there in round 1 and dried up in round 2 when they faced Carolina's defense and goaltending. Will that be the same story with Florida? Time will tell. So not too much to say about the Devils. The offense hit a wall. They weren't really even expected to be there, right? At the start of this season, it was a great year. I thought it was supposed to be a building block type of season. This was definitely a big building block going to round number 2. We'll want Timo Meier to re-sign. What's going to happen with Jesper Bratt? What's going to happen with the goaltending? We don't know. However, Vitek Vanacek was not good enough, unfortunately, allowing over 7.5 goals above expected through his 7 games played. Smeed, his numbers came back down to earth. He ended at 2.4 goals saved above expected. His save percentage also came back down to earth. He was at like 951. It came back down to 921. But still, it wasn't like he got like embarrassed in front of Carolina. The offense in Carolina still had some trouble. So now as I move into my thoughts about the next series, it's so interesting. It is so interesting because you have Florida, strong offense, strong defense, a team similar to New Jersey in terms of that, excuse me, a team similar in the sense that they have a hot goalie and they have a good top six that is scoring. I think the Panthers are doing much better, but just in terms of big picture statements, a team that has done that, but now will come to face Carolina, who just shut down the Devils. Can they also shut down the Panthers? But the Panthers are going to give the Hurricanes probably more defensive trouble than the what am I looking for? Than the Devils did. I'm trying to find my words here. So it is very interesting. I'm going in circles. I'm talking myself into a hole here. It's probably some of the congestion that's not helping me out here. If I go ahead and go back to the comments here, I see Dabrowski-Ego's comment. Now the mouth is going too. As a Devils fan, our whole team became ghosts. They were just not ready for playoff Carolina. You could see that with the Devils' penalty kill and power play unit, who is regularly great, but let in 4 goals in game 3. Also very tired from the Rangers. Yes, that's well said as well. So I'm kind of falling apart here. Let me bring it back to my, let me head into my thoughts on this series again now. So starting my thoughts on the Eastern and Western Conference Finals. In the Eastern Conference Final, we have Florida versus Carolina. Very similar teams in the sense that they both have strong goaltenders with good defense in front of them. But I give the edge definitely to the Hurricanes' defensive core. Will that stronger defensive core in Carolina be able to outdo the stronger forward core in Florida? That'll be the case, because that'll be the question, because it's not often the case where, sometimes you think it's offense versus defense, who comes out on top? No, both teams have good offense, good defense, good goaltending. Panthers have better offense, strong defense, and the better goalie. And the Carolina Hurricanes have the worst offense, the better defense, and the slightly worse goaltender, I would say. Slightly worse, negligible, with both of them being incredible right now. That is the point that we are at right now. That is going to be a great series. We're coming down to look at the nitty-gritty now when it comes down to who's taking what. The Hurricanes and the Panthers, two teams that, if we go ahead and look at expected goals for all situations in the playoffs, what is this? Expected 209 goals. What is this? 2022-23, all situations, playoffs. And it's showing me regular season with the Penguins. These guys make me laugh. Regular season, playoffs. Okay. So if we look at these two teams, the Hurricanes have been expected to score 36.5, let's say 37. The Panthers have been expected to score 42. Both teams have scored the same amount of goals, 40 goals apiece. However, the Hurricanes are currently scoring a little bit more than they even should, and the Panthers are scoring a little bit less than they should. Now, the Hurricanes, who are scoring more than they should, are going against Sergei Bobrovsky, and the Panthers, who aren't scoring quite enough as they should, are going against Freddie Anderson. This is probably the stat that scares me the most. The Panthers are scoring, but they should even be scoring a little bit more. Give them the Hurricanes defense and Freddie Anderson, that number may get even lower in terms of goals for, as their differential between goals for versus expected goals for, right? If we look at expected goals against now, if we go ahead and look at this number through the entire postseason, the Panthers have been expected to give up 48 goals, and the Hurricanes at just 31. Now, that is another crazy stat. However, can the Hurricanes capitalize on that 48 goals expected and score more against the Panthers and Sergei Bobrovsky? Or will the Panthers shut them down? Meanwhile, the Hurricanes, who are expected to allow 31 goals through their postseason so far, are facing the Panthers, who are scoring a little less than they should be. So if I have to go just nothing but the stats, the expected goals for, the goaltending, the player stats that we already looked at, I have to say that I give the edge to the Hurricanes, but it's the heart versus the mind once again. My mind leans Hurricanes, my heart leans Panthers. I was looking at Jay Fresh earlier, looking at what I would go back to the Hurricanes and the Devils. This would go back into their series, but I'm not going to break it all down again. This is the only graphic that he posted in terms of the postseason. Goals for the Hurricanes were scoring 1 goal above expected in that series, while the Devils were allowing an extra half goal above expected in that series. So they weren't even doing anything too crazy, the Devils. They weren't allowing 3-4 goals above expected. The Hurricanes were scoring just a little bit more than expected. So it's really going to come down to, can their defense stay as strong or not? Because if not, the Panthers are going to break through it and they're going to take the lead and they're going to run away with it. But if the Hurricanes can stay just as strong defensively and continue to score in their limited amount, but enough is enough, then that's no problem. Going back to the comments here, E. Alexander, Dallas or Carolina? I think Dallas might edge out Carolina. I don't want Vegas or Florida. My heart tells me that Florida takes it. They just look like a wagon right now. But my mind tells me the Hurricanes take it. So, it's not like there's anything riding on this. It doesn't change my life, whoever wins. I'm just here for good hockey. I'm going to go ahead and throw out a prediction of the Panthers going to the Stanley Cup final. My mind tells me the Hurricanes. If I had to put money on it and it was a life or death decision, I would go with the Hurricanes. I think most of the stats point to the Hurricanes. But, I took sports psychology in university, and I'm going to go ahead and say the Panthers are a wagon right now, and they're going to go ahead and beat the Hurricanes. Again, please don't discount what I'm thinking about the Hurricanes. They are such a good team. Just the offense, it's not quite there, and they're going to have to continue to maintain their strong defense. And the Panthers, they're pests. They've broken through strong defenses in Boston and a so-so defense in Toronto. Could they do it again? Time will tell. Excuse me. So I'm going to try to wrap it up soon enough. The voice is going. The congestion's getting to me. Let's get over to the Western Conference final now between the Dallas Stars and the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, I didn't look too much at Dallas's scoring. Dallas, this is going to be a different matchup than the Eastern Conference final. It's not going to be as much of a defensive masterclass. Over here in Dallas, we have 3 players who are double-digit points or more through 8 to 13 games. Pavelski, 8 goals in 8 games. Incredible. Roope Hintz, 9 goals, 19 points in 13 games. One of the most underrated players, I continue to say, in the whole league. And what I find to be incredible is that no forward in this top group here plays more than like 18 and a half minutes, 19 minutes per night. No one's playing 19, 20, 22. Excuse me. If I scroll down, Jason Robertson is playing the most of any forward at 18:47 per night. That's it. Meanwhile, Miro Heiskanen's playing close to a half hour, 28:15 per night. The guy's double shifting left and right. While Roope Hintz is one of the most underrated forwards in the league, Miro Heiskanen has to be one of the most underrated defensemen in the league by far. By far. Add in 9 points in 13 games. Robertson, 12. Domi, who has been a great acquisition for the Stars, as well as even Evgeny Dadonov, another great addition for the Stars. They're all chipping in. Sagan has life. Jamie Benn is back from the grave. Rookie Wyatt Johnson, 4 goals and 6 points. And down the list we go here. The depth has been their Achilles heel. -4, -5. Not great numbers when it comes to the depth. They're not scoring a lot, and they're also allowing goals when they're on the ice. Now, part of this goes into Jake Ottinger, whose numbers really took a hit in that series against Seattle. His goals saved above expected has now dropped to 3.3 goals allowed above expected, which is which is 1, 2, 3, 4th worst of all the goalies in the postseason. So I think that those numbers will definitely bounce back. But, Dallas has to continue their scoring pace and their defensive strength of their top pair has to keep being their top pair. Absolutely. That is going to be the challenge against a Vegas Golden Knights team that has beaten a lot of challenges of their own. If we just look at expected goals for from the teams through the postseason, Dallas expected 46 goals. They've scored 47. Very good. They've been above their pace a little bit. They're expected to get a lot, and they do get a lot. Meanwhile, Vegas expected 34.5. They've also they're punching above their weight, scoring 41 goals. So that's very good. Both teams are expected to score a lot and are even scoring more than they're expected to. Now, expected goals against, Vegas expected to allow 36.46, 36.5. They have allowed 33, so they're below expected. Very good. Meanwhile, Dallas, scrolling down, where's Dallas here? They don't want to show me Dallas? Oh, actually, they're 7th here. Expected goals against, 34.33. They've allowed 40. So Vegas could absolutely take advantage of Dallas right there. That could be where Vegas pulls away. I would love to see Dallas and Florida, but I think it's going to be Vegas and Carolina. As I mentioned previously, the Vegas Golden Knights, a great committee type team. So many players who are coming together, similar to Dallas, but just doing it a bit better, I find. Excuse me. Doing it a bit better in terms of their scoring. I think that they, to have 7 guys who are 8 points or more in 11 games, that's one thing. Dallas, we just said they have, what was the number on Dallas again? So 8 guys, and then they have 5 guys who have 10 points through 13. Let's say remove Pavelski from his 13-game stats. But I don't know. The scoring is quite similar. I'm trying to find big differences between the two teams. I wouldn't say that there are major differences here. I'm trying to say that I think when it comes down to the... Can I say the goaltending? Is that unfair to say the goaltending? Because I don't want to discount Jake Ottinger, who has been incredible in his postseason career and even in that first round. He had a tough second round a little bit, but I'm expecting him to bounce back, and that's going to be bad news for Vegas. But they're going to have Aiden Hill, who's coming off of a huge Game 7 win, Brassois, who has done enough to be respected, 2 solid enough goalies that they can trust, and a good, strong defensive core, Pietrangelo, Theodore, and a good scoring by committee, 7, 8 guys who are all scoring 8 points or more through the postseason. That's what they have. Dallas has an incredible goalie who struggled a little bit in round number 2, a good defensive core, but really led by that top guy, Heiskanen, who's playing over 28 minutes per night, and a forward core that is their hallmark. That is their hallmark in Dallas, their forward depth. So again, it's a very tight series. It's a great series. It's one that I'm very excited for. I think when I look at all the stats, again, when I got to go with my mind, it's Vegas. With my heart, I even lean Vegas a little bit. But again, it's never easy. You can never win, right? You're always missing something. There's always someone who's proving you wrong. I should have said this. I should have said that. I lean Vegas versus Florida. I would love Dallas versus Florida, but according to the numbers, I think it would be Vegas versus Carolina. So there I am hedging all my bets. If I have to officially say something, I say Vegas versus Florida. Deep in my heart of hearts, I would think that it's Vegas versus Carolina. And just in my fun fantasy world where I think it would be a cool matchup, I think Dallas versus Florida. But that's, my predictions. I don't think anyone's going to go and put their life savings on my predictions. That's just what I see when I look at the numbers, when I watch the games, when I look at the eye test, and that is what I'm thinking. So Vegas, I think they take it in 7 versus Dallas, and Carolina versus Florida. Although the stats say Carolina, I'm going to go with my heart, and I'm going to think that the Panthers also take it in a 7-game series. It's hard not to say 7 in any Eastern or Western Conference final or Stanley Cup final. Watch one of them be 5 or 6, but I'm just looking forward to some good hockey. So the voice is going, the congestion's going. I know not many of us are here watching live, but I hope that for those of you who are watching or anyone who's watching after the fact, be sure to leave your comments down here with your thoughts. In the last one, there was a great comment, someone saying, "No way the Panthers take it. You're crazy. Leafs in 5." Ended up being Panthers in 5. So it's always fun to go back. Where did I get it wrong? Where did the viewers get it wrong? We all joke with each other, but at the end of the day, whose predictions ended up being what reality ended up being. So be sure to leave your predictions for the Eastern and Western Conference Finals down here in the YouTube comments, or join us over on the Discord server, link in the description, where we're always talking hockey and postseason and much, much more. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for breaking news and analysis in the real world of hockey and the NHL postseason, as well as our brand new Pittsburgh Penguins franchise mode on NHL 23 starting in about probably by sometime this weekend, and our ongoing MLB The Show franchise mode with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me this evening. I hope that you enjoyed the second round, the breakdown, the analysis. The third round is coming soon. Edmonton, such a strong team, some bad coaching decisions. New Jersey, there's hope for them in the future. Toronto, do you got to blow it up? Seattle, what a feel-good story. They're all gone. 4 are out. 4 are moving on. We'll see what happens in the Eastern and Western Conference Finals starting in just a couple days' time. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are as well. Leave a like on the video if you haven't already, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next one. Everyone have yourselves a wonderful evening, and we will talk soon. Good night.